Have you ever wondered if the ancient practice of fasting could hold modern solutions to some of our most formidable health challenges, such as cancer? Imagine an approach to wellness that's as old as humanity itself, yet is being explored today with cutting-edge scientific curiosity. That's fasting for you, an intriguing paradox of ancient wisdom and modern science. Fasting, the voluntary abstinence from food for a certain period, isn't just a spiritual or weight loss practice anymore. It's stepping into the limelight of scientific research, and one of the areas it's making waves in is cancer treatment. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's be clear. Fasting is not a magic bullet or a standalone cure for cancer. It's potentially an adjunct, a helper, something that could enhance the effectiveness of conventional treatments. So why is the scientific community interested in fasting? The answer lies in a biological process called autophagy, from the Greek words for self and eating. It's our body's natural recycling system, breaking down damaged or dysfunctional cells, including potentially cancerous ones. When we fast, our body enters a state of metabolic stress. It becomes like a finely tuned machine, prioritizing the use of stored energy and initiating cellular repair mechanisms, autophagy included. In this intriguing dance of survival, normal cells adapt to the low-energy state by becoming more efficient, while cancer cells, often heavily reliant on glucose for energy, struggle to survive. As a result, fasting could potentially make cancer cells more vulnerable to treatments like chemotherapy or radiation therapy, while possibly minimizing damage to healthy cells. Moreover, fasting has been associated with reduced inflammation and oxidative stress, both implicated in cancer development. By lowering these factors, could fasting help create an inhospitable environment for cancer cells? It's a question that's actively being studied. But remember, while fasting shows promise, it should always be done under the supervision of a healthcare professional. It's not suitable for everyone and carries risks such as nutrient deficiencies and muscle loss. Let's delve into the fascinating world of autophagy, a process activated by fasting which could potentially aid in the fight against cancer. Autophagy, a term derived from the Greek words for self-eating, is a natural process our bodies use to clean house. It's like our body's own recycling program, breaking down and reusing parts of cells that are damaged, dysfunctional, or simply not needed anymore. This process is critical for maintaining cellular health and function. You can think of it as a kind of cellular spring cleaning. Now, under normal circumstances, autophagy is happening in our bodies at a baseline level. It's part of the routine maintenance that keeps us healthy. But certain conditions can ramp up this process. And one of those conditions, intriguingly, is fasting. When we fast, our bodies enter a state of metabolic stress. Now, don't let the word stress scare you. In this case, it's a good thing. You see, this metabolic stress signals our cells to conserve resources. And one way they do this is by stepping up autophagy. By breaking down and recycling more cellular components, our cells can keep functioning even when nutrients are scarce. And here's where it gets interesting for cancer treatment. Cancer cells are notoriously greedy when it comes to nutrients. They need a lot of fuel to support their rapid growth. But when we fast, we're essentially cutting off their food supply. And unlike normal cells, cancer cells aren't very good at adapting to this nutrient-deprived state. They struggle to survive, while our normal cells keep chugging along, recycling and reusing components to stay alive. So by triggering autophagy through fasting, we might be able to selectively target cancer cells, making them more vulnerable to treatments like chemotherapy or radiation therapy, while potentially minimizing damage to healthy cells. So, it appears that fasting kickstarts a cellular recycling process that might just give us an upper hand against cancer. But how does this work exactly? Cancer cells, unlike normal cells, are heavily dependent on glucose for energy and struggle to survive in a nutrient-deprived environment. This is where the fascinating process of fasting comes into play. When you fast, your body enters a state of metabolic stress. It's like a resourceful survivalist, prioritizing the use of stored energy and kickstarting cellular repair mechanisms. One of these mechanisms is autophagy, a natural recycling system that breaks down and repurposes damaged or dysfunctional cells. Think of autophagy as your body's own little recycling plant, constantly working to keep things running smoothly. Now, let's think back to those hungry cancer cells. They're accustomed to a constant banquet of glucose. When you fast, you're essentially pulling the tablecloth out from under that feast. Suddenly, the cancer cells are left scrambling in this nutrient-deprived environment. Here's where autophagy can potentially step in. Remember, it's like a recycling plant, breaking down what's not needed or what's harmful. In the context of fasting, autophagy might selectively target these struggling cancer cells, breaking them down and recycling them for parts. But what about your normal cells? Well, they're quite the adaptable bunch. Even in this low-energy state, normal cells can become more efficient in utilizing available resources. It's like they switch from being gas guzzlers to energy-efficient machines, while the cancer cells are left sputtering and stalling. This difference in adaptability between normal cells and cancer cells can potentially be harnessed to make cancer treatments more effective. Fasting may make cancer cells more vulnerable to treatments like chemotherapy or radiation therapy, while potentially minimizing damage to healthy cells. So while our normal cells adapt and become more efficient, cancer cells might be left struggling. But there's more to the story. Inflammation and oxidative stress are like fuel to the fire of cancer development and progression. These two factors are crucial in understanding the relationship between fasting and cancer. To visualize, think of inflammation as the body's response to injury or infection, a sort of biological fire alarm. It's the body's way of protecting itself, but when inflammation becomes chronic, it can lead to serious health issues, including cancer. Oxidative stress, on the other hand, is a state where the body has an imbalance of free radicals, harmful molecules that can cause damage to cells. This oxidative damage has been linked to many diseases, including cancer. Now, where does fasting come into play? By initiating a state of metabolic stress, fasting can help regulate these two factors. Fasting has been shown to reduce inflammation, effectively turning off that biological fire alarm when it's not needed. This is thought to be due to the body's shift in focus from growth and reproduction to maintenance and repair during a fast. As for oxidative stress, fasting may also play a role in reducing its levels. By shifting the body's energy sources from glucose to ketones, a byproduct of fat metabolism, fasting can reduce the production of reactive oxygen species, the main culprits of oxidative stress. So, by reducing inflammation and oxidative stress, fasting creates a less than ideal environment for cancer cells to thrive. They are left vulnerable, struggling to survive in a nutrient-deprived state, while normal cells adapt and become more efficient. However, it's important to remember that fasting is not a magic bullet. It's a tool that, when used properly and under professional supervision, can potentially enhance the effectiveness of conventional cancer treatments. The goal is not to replace traditional therapies, but to complement them, to make them more targeted and less harmful to the body's healthy cells. By reducing inflammation and oxidative stress, fasting could potentially make life difficult for cancer cells. But remember, it's not a standalone solution. While the potential of fasting in cancer treatment is fascinating, it's important to remember that it's not without risks. Let's take a moment to understand this more clearly. Fasting, especially for extended periods, can lead to several complications. Think about it as a kind of metabolic stress, where your body is forced to rely on stored energy. If this goes on for too long, you might face nutrient deficiencies. Your body needs a balanced diet to function optimally, and you can't get all the necessary vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients from stored fat alone. Moreover, there's a risk of muscle loss. When the body is starved of glucose, it begins to break down muscle tissue to create more. This can lead to muscle weakness, fatigue, and a decrease in overall physical strength. And if you're already dealing with the physical toll of cancer and its treatment, you certainly don't want to add to that burden. Now let's talk about those who may not be suitable for fasting. For instance, people with certain chronic illnesses, those who are underweight, pregnant, or breastfeeding, and individuals with a history of eating disorders. These groups may face significant health risks if they attempt to fast, especially without medical supervision. And that brings us to another crucial point, the absolute importance of medical supervision. Fasting isn't something to be undertaken lightly, especially when you're dealing with a serious illness like cancer. It's not a DIY project. You need a healthcare professional to monitor your health, adjust your fasting protocol as needed, and ensure that you're not putting yourself at unnecessary risk. But perhaps the most important caveat is this. Fasting is not a replacement for conventional cancer treatments. It's a potential adjunct. something that may enhance the effectiveness of chemotherapy or radiation therapy, not replace them. The science is promising, but it's still in its early days. We don't have enough evidence to say that fasting can kill cancer cells on its own. So if you're considering fasting as part of your cancer treatment plan, don't stop your conventional treatments. They are your primary line of defense. Fasting might be a valuable ally in this fight, but it's not the main soldier. In conclusion, the potential of fasting in cancer treatment is indeed exciting. The process of autophagy, the body's natural mechanism for breaking down and recycling damaged cells, including cancerous ones, is a fascinating field of study. But like any promising treatment, it comes with a set of caveats. Fasting might be a powerful adjunct to cancer treatment, but it's always essential to consult with your healthcare provider before making any changes to your treatment plan. And remember, your health and well-being should always be your top priority. With the right guidance and a balanced approach, you can navigate your way through this challenging journey.